Welcome to Talmudic Treasures. Today we're on Nedarim, page 53, which discusses a situation where a person says, I'm making a vow against having oil. Now we know there are different kinds of oil. There's olive oil, there's sesame oil. So the Talmud tells us it really depends where you live. If you are in Israel, typically when a person speaks about oil, they're referring to olive oil. And therefore, the only thing that you're going to forbid yourself with is olive oil, because that's what they use. And therefore, if you would somehow come across sesame oil, that doesn't fall under the category of your vow, and therefore you're allowed to have it. However, in Babylonia, it was the reverse. The people there typically only used sesame seed oil. They didn't use olive oil. So in that location, if you would have said the exact same language, and you would say, I do not wish to derive any benefit from oil, so the only thing that would be forbidden to you would specifically be the sesame seed oil, but you would still be allowed to use olive oil. Now, of course, in a situation, if you're in a community where you go to the supermarket and you can get olive oil and sesame seed oil, so the fact that you said oil and it could be interchanged, it could be used for both, then in that situation, it is forbidden for both. Now, even though it seems obvious, that's even in a situation where there are some people that use both and some people only use one, so it's possible that maybe when you said oil, it was only referring to the one which most people use, and we should go after the majority, and therefore the other type of oil is allowed. So we say, no, we go strict. We're unsure in this situation what you meant, and therefore all of these oils are going to be forbidden. But we see from here a very interesting concept, that you have two people that can say the identical thing. I am forbidding myself from having oil. But because they are in two different locations, they speak differently. And because the locations have different items that they typically use, so therefore the laws are the exact opposite. They're completely different. Which teaches us that when it comes to a person who hears a law and they say, oh, it must be because this rabbi said that this was permitted to this person, it must be permitted to me as well. Or I heard that this is forbidden from this other individual, it must be forbidden for me as well. The reality is, even if it seems to be identical, there are so many other factors involved, and we really need to therefore look at things at a case-by-case basis. Just because you hear one thing is permitted doesn't mean the other that's necessarily the same thing in this situation. Again, when it comes to these two oils, the people are saying the same thing, but it could have two totally different meanings, which we could also derive from here in general, that when a person speaks, we have to be careful not just to hear the language, the actual words, but also to understand where they're coming from quite literally. And therefore, it could be misconstrued what's being said based on your feelings of, oh, this must be what they meant. But the truth is, you maybe just don't understand their language. You may not understand what is their custom of how they speak in a particular neighborhood or different part of the country. And therefore, it teaches us once again to be very careful before we judge and think that we know all the answers of what a person means, because possibly we don't.